Okay, in a pan I've got some garlic with about a tablespoon of oil. Here I've got some green onion, and what I bought was like a soup bone, but it had a lot of meat, and I chopped the meat off the bone and I cut up about 5 green onions. I've now added the meat and the green onions to the pot, and I'm going to brown everything down and add maybe a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm adding my salt and pepper now. I'm stirring the meat down. Now you can see the meat is browning up nicely. Want to get them good and brown. They're nice bite-sized pieces, see, about yay big. The next ingredients you're going to need for this are these 4 ingredients. Now you see I have my flame, it's on about a medium, and the meat is cooked down very nicely. So what I want to do now is I'm going to take the soy sauce, Kikkoman, the best kind, and I'm going to sprinkle 6 or 7 dashes of Kikkoman soy sauce in there. Sesame oil, this is tricky because you don't want to use a lot of this. We're going to use probably less than a teaspoon. Because you put too much of that in there. Sesame oil has a very strong flavor and it will overpower everything. Next, you want to add the sugar. A 1/4 cup of sugar. Then I'm going to mix everything together again. Now what I'm going to do, I want to stick my finger in there and see if I got the sweetness, the bulgogi sweetness that I'm so familiar with. Now we're going to take the beef broth and I'm going to open that up. We're going to use the whole box. The whole box. It doesn't matter what kind of brand. And the most important part, that nice meat, piece of meat with that big bone that we had, I'm going to drop this in here. That's going to give it an even more beefier flavor. Just going to use a regular coffee cup. It's probably about 2 cups of water because it does get really beefy. And then I'm going to add the 2 cups of water to my broth. I'm going to turn the flame down to a low simmer. And I'm going to let it simmer for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. Make sure all the broth is nicely infused, the bone is cooked all the way through, all the seasonings have come out from there. And then we will look at putting in the rice cakes. Delicious. Okay, we're going to check on our soup now. It's been cooking for a little while here and it's boiling nicely. That's what you want it to do. My fire is still on its low, and you might see floating to the top is going to be like the garlic bits and the onions and whatnot. And if you'll notice, the bone is now cooking up really nicely here, and that's going to really give it good flavor. So it's been about 20 minutes. I'm going to cover it back up and let it continue to cook. Okay, now here's the next part. These are the Korean rice cakes. Now, I didn't know this until recently, but before you put them into the soup broth, we have to rinse them off in cold water, or actually soak them in cold water. So I'm going to take a bowl and I'm going to get a handful. And a good handful is probably, it's going to be about that much. It's going to make a bowl. I'm going to say it's about 20 rice cakes. And then I'm going to run the water and just soak them in some cold water for about 10 minutes. Okay, after my broth is done, as you can see, it's all nice and steamy hot. I got my bone in here. That's the first thing I want to take out because we don't want to eat this. This was basically just for flavor. But now, if you're like me, who's the only person here that likes to eat it, I like to take the broth and put it into a smaller pan before I do the rice cakes. And that's because the rice cakes can get kind of gummy and make the soup broth gummy. And it doesn't taste as good when you're trying to make a bowl of it for yourself. So if you're making it for a bunch of people, you can keep it in a big pot like that and add your rice cakes there. Or if you're like me, I'm doing it just for myself. Now you see my broth is nice and bubbling. Now I'm going to take my rice cakes that I've soaked, and I'm just going to stick my hand in here, and I'm going to drop the rice cakes into the pot. And I'm going to let that boil for about 5 minutes. Okay, we're coming to the end here and about to serve up a bowl, but you see the rice cakes are now nicely boiling in there. Now you want to take an egg. You want to crack the egg, and you want to slowly, not put the whole thing in at one time, but let some fall in one place and let it fall in another. And don't stir it. But you do want to break the yolk. The yolk landed in here, so I'm going to put my spoon in here and break the yolk, and I'm going to let it boil some more. Okay, we put the egg in and it cooked maybe for another 2 minutes, and as you can see, the egg is nicely cooked in there. Now all we have to do is plate it, and what I'm going to do is just pour it into the bowl. And there you have it. A nice bowl of rice cake soup.